So nod when you're all good to go. Great. Well, good afternoon, Queensland. In an update we heard earlier today from the Victorian Government that they are easing some of the restrictions in relation to their COVID community cases. As a consequence, from 1 a.m. this Friday, the 11th of June, we will be easing our restrictions to limiting the hotspot to just Greater Melbourne area. So that will mean people outside of Greater Melbourne will be able to travel to Queensland again, but those in the Greater Melbourne area, which will be 31 local government authorities, will still require an exemption to be able to travel to Queensland if they're a non-resident, and if they're a resident, they will be required to go into hotel quarantine. So that's from 1 a.m. this Friday. I can also update that we now have a positive case in Caloundra. The woman is 44 years old and has travelled from Victoria through New South Wales into Queensland, arriving in Queensland on the 5th, travelling through areas of Queensland up to the Sunshine Coast and residing at Caloundra with family members and her husband. The woman was tested yesterday and was confirmed today that it is a positive case. She is currently being interviewed, but we do have a list of exposure sites of where she has been in Queensland, and I'll get the Chief Health Officer to go through those exposure sites in a moment. But what I say to Queenslanders is we have been here before, we know what to do. If you have been to any of the exposure sites, whether you have symptoms or not, we would like you to come forward and get tested, and we will make sure that our testing clinics on the Sunshine Coast will have extended hours, and there will be a number of private pathologists that will also be doing testing. So there'll be plenty of testing facilities that people will be able to go to. So please don't just rely on what you've known in the past around testing clinics. Jump on the website and have a look at the hours that they're operating and which ones will be operating without needing a referral so that you can get tested. For anyone else, again, our message is clear and simple, which is if you have any symptoms whatsoever, please come get tested, and anyone who has got a COVID test must remain at home until they get that result. So please follow that advice. That goes for anyone in Queensland, but particularly if you have been around these areas in which this woman has travelled. I'll ask the Chief Health Officer to just go through the sites. Please remember these sites will be added to as we gain more information from this woman, but we do have a number of sites already in areas like Goondiwindi and Toowoomba, but also the Sunshine Coast that we want people to be very aware of. Dr. Young.
Thank you very much, Minister. Yes, so this lady travelled with her partner, leaving Melbourne on the 1st of June, arriving in Queensland on the 5th of June, and she travelled up through New South Wales and crossed the border at Goondiwindi. So she's been at quite a few sites, which I'm going to go through, but this is very, very preliminary information. So it's important that people go on the website and really familiarise themselves with where she has been, so that if they've been there, they come forward and get tested. Now, no different to normal, of course, if anyone, anywhere in the state of Queensland has any symptoms at all, please come forward immediately, get tested and isolate till you get a negative result. But if you've been to any of these exposure sites in Queensland that this lady has been at, then it's important that you come forward and get tested immediately, whether or not you've got symptoms. So I'll just go through them. So they start, the first exposure site is Goondiwindi McDonald's at 7:35 a.m. on the 5th of June. So from 7:35 a.m. through to 7:50 a.m. Then later that day, they stopped for petrol at the Caltex Super Petrol Station in Toowoomba at 11 a.m. to 11:15, so again on the 5th of June. Then they travelled to the Sunshine Coast, and their venues they've been at start on the 6th of June at 2:45 through to 3 p.m, Sunnies at Moffat Beach. Then 3:30 till 4:30 on that same day, Coffee Cat at Kings Beach. Then the next day, the Stockland Shopping Centre at Caloundra from 10:45 till 11:30. And the Coffee Club specifically in the Stockland Shopping Centre. And Kmart, the women's section. Then later that day, Bunnings, 12:10 p.m. to 12:45 p.m. in Caloundra. Then Kawana Shopping World, a number of sites there from 1 o'clock through till 2 o'clock. Then on the next day, on the 8th of June, Baringa IGA at Caloundra from 3:50 to 4:10 p.m. and the female toilets there near IGA. So there's a lot of these are only initial sites. We will be getting more sites as we talk to the lady and her family, and we'll be putting those up on the website. It's very, very important that people please check them. Now, I know that people in the Sunshine Coast have always been fantastic at getting tested. We've always seen large numbers come out. There are more places that you can be tested, and hours are extending, so please be patient and come forward and get tested. Thank you. I don't know the details, why they left, what their reason was. At the moment, I'm absolutely focused on just getting this information out there. Of course, we'll be looking into how all this happened, of course, but not at this stage.
For yourself or the Health Minister or the Commissioner, but I'm told that this woman lied on her declaration form and she entered Queensland. Is that correct?
So good afternoon. I might just briefly address that. Can I just say at the moment, look, our primary focus at the moment is contact tracing, trying to work out where this lady has been and who's been exposed, and making sure that the information is getting out to the community so we can get people tested, and that those that need to quarantine and be looked after are being done. So that's the primary focus, and Queensland Police assisting Queensland Health as we have all through this response for COVID to get that done first and foremost. But of course, we are going to investigate the circumstances of what's happened here. So we've got a couple that have come from Victoria, when Victoria's in a lockdown, into Queensland. All the aspects of how that's occurred, including what's happened in the other states, that we'll do in a cooperative manner with our colleagues in Victoria and New South Wales, and we'll examine all those issues around passes, whether they were appropriate and what has happened. It is too early to say. The whole purpose of our investigation will be to establish the facts. That has not happened yet, so we're not going to speculate about any of that at the moment. But we'll keep you posted around that is. So that investigation is underway. Yeah, look, it's a really important thing for us to remind the whole community. You know, we have 20-something million people in Australia, and we have a state the size of Victoria that's impacted by this. We cannot possibly check every single person that's moving about the country. We rely on the community doing the right thing. And as we have seen all through this, the vast majority of the people do the right thing. On this occasion, we've seen someone come into our state when they're positive with COVID and now be in the community. We need to establish what's happened there. So the reminder is out there for everybody. Make sure you know what your obligations are when you're leaving your state under those sort of restrictions and coming into particularly our state, and what our requirements are. And that's all we're focused on. No, they've been. I'll leave that to the Chief Health Officer. They've been tested, and she's come back positive.
Just lastly, I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of anger in the community about this. What punishment could these people face if they had lied?
Well, look, Tim, as we know, there are offences that are created every time someone does not comply with the Chief Health Officer's directions. There are infringement notices, or in fact, we can take legal action and take them to court. So there are quite serious offences in this. We will examine all of that, and we'll make the appropriate decision on what the evidence tells us. Thank you.
Can you talk about how many close contacts have already been identified for this woman?
Yeah, so far, we've identified 6 close contacts. I've got the result of her partner already. That was negative. I'm waiting for the other results.
And are they in hospital? Where are they being quarantined?
So the partner has now been admitted to the Sunshine Coast University Hospital, where his wife is, just while we work through, because he's spent a lot of time with her in the car, of course, so I'm quite concerned that he has been exposed and could become infected. So we just thought it best to put him into hospital till we work out what's happening here.
Do we know how long she's been positive for? Yes.
Well, she did develop some symptoms on the 3rd, so we think probably back to the 1st, but that's all being clarified at the moment. I'm waiting for serology results to just see how long she's had this infection. No, so it's with our scientific services laboratory to have genome sequencing, but it was quite a late CT value on the test, so we're not sure that we'll be able to sequence it.
Are they staying with anyone in Queensland?
Yes, with family in Caloundra.
And that was that in a house?
Yes.
And have they been vaccinated at all?
I don't have that information. But that's a very, very important point. Thank you for reminding me about vaccination. Anyone who lives in the Sunshine Coast, this is the time to go forward and get vaccinated. The Commonwealth has been very, very helpful, and they've given us double the doses of vaccine for that part of Queensland. So GPs will have additional doses of vaccine. So anyone who's 50 years of age or older should go to their GP or go to one of the Commonwealth vaccine clinics and get vaccinated. That's very important. And anyone under 50 should come forward to one of the Queensland Health vaccine sites.
She may have been positive for 9 days and
The 3rd, so yes, but she only arrived in Queensland on the 5th. So she could well have been infectious while she was travelling through New South Wales, and that's something I've been working with my colleague in New South Wales to work through.
how is the testing rates across Queensland compared to previous times? And are they going to have to increase now to make sure?
Oh yes, but I expect that will happen. As I said before, people who live in the Sunshine Coast have been absolutely excellent in the past. When there's been a request to get tested, they've done it, so they've been really good.
How risky is this right now, the situation, in terms of community risk?
Well, I need to get more information first before I can really work that through. I really would like serology results to work out whether this is really a recovered case, because as I explained, those CT values are quite high, so she could well be right at the end of her illness, but she has been out and about in the Sunshine Coast since she arrived on the 5th of June, plus that time in Goondiwindi and Toowoomba. So really anyone who's been to any of those exposure venues I've listed, or anyone with any symptoms at all, it's vital they get tested. So again, we can find the earliest cases in this outbreak.
Obviously, we don't know yet if there was a falsified bit of information on a document, but given what Victoria's in right now, is this frustrating knowing that someone from Victoria has now potentially caused an outbreak?
Any case of COVID is frustrating. The community has had to put up with so much now for 18 months, and to do this again, it doesn't matter the cause, any community case of COVID is going to be frustrating for a lot of people.
Obviously early days, but any concerns about the Origin game tonight? I mean, a lot of people travelling to see that game in Townsville.
No. I mean, this is one case that has been infectious in the community in the Sunshine Coast. We need to see how that happens, but the best way to work out what the risk is for people to come forward and get tested.
Is there any possibility we could have another lockdown in Queensland?
It's very, very early to be even thinking that, but the best way to stop any need for a lockdown is that people get tested, come forward, and we find any cases.
Just to confirm, did those authorities became aware was when she came forward to get tested, or did anyone else raise any concerns?
No, there were no other concerns. So she came forward yesterday morning to get tested with her husband, and that was the first we knew of anything, and then I got those results this morning.
And sorry, the results on the other close contacts, have you got them back yet? Or?
Only the husband. I don't have the other results back yet. Yes.
And are they, the 6 close contacts, are they quarantining at home?
Yes. Except for the husband, who's now been admitted to the Sunshine Coast University Hospital.
With the wife?
Yes.
Just quickly on the booking page, would that be cool? Is people still having a few issues logging on, emails aren't being recognised, things like that? What's your advice?
Look, we do want people to book. We know that there's been significant interest both with our phone lines and our booking system. We ask people to be patient, but if you are someone who has been invited, so you've already registered, You've already received an email inviting you to book, so you are in the eligible group, 40 to 49, or you're a residential aged care or disability worker or a frontline worker. If you are one of these categories, you already have an email or text inviting you to book and you're having trouble booking, then you can turn up to one of our community hubs or our hospital sites and get vaccinated, because you are absolutely eligible and we want to get you vaccinated as quickly as possible.
Does today's situation aid you or frustrate you?
Oh, look, you know, we don't want any community transmission. So far, we actually don't have a community transmission. This is not someone who's been infected in Queensland. They've come into Queensland with the virus, it appears that way, and hasn't passed it on to anyone else as yet. So what we want is, let's see what these results show. Hopefully we have got this early, and hopefully there are no other positive cases and there's no actual local community transmission. But you know, it is very early. We have had this information for a matter of hours, and in fact it's only in the last hour that we have had it absolutely confirmed that this is a positive case by double checking the results. So it's very early, conversations are still going on, this individual is still being interviewed. We'll have a lot more to say tomorrow and the next day as we update Queenslanders.
And how closely are you working with Victoria and authorities in New South Wales as well?
Oh, certainly the Chief Health Officer talks to her colleagues, especially considering this individual has travelled across 3 states. So it will be really important that all those jurisdictions are aware of their exposure sites and put that information up. So again, for Queenslanders, it's not just the Queensland sites you need to be having a look at. If you yourself have travelled to New South Wales or Queensland, or Victoria, sorry, make sure you're checking the websites and having a look at those exposure sites. That's the best way we can keep everyone safe. I believe it was Greater Melbourne, on a suburb just out on the edge of Greater Melbourne. Thank you.
All good?